Hello and welcome into the New Orleans Saints pregame show presented by Harrah's New Orleans. I'm Caroline Gonzalez, joined by John DeShazier here on the Saints sideline in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. We get set to kick off for a little Monday Night Football. Saints against the Houston Texans at 6:10 p.m. on ESPN. You can also listen in on WWL 870 AM. JD, a lot has changed for the Saints since the preseason, as well as the Texans. They went through some significant changes, especially in the last week. Can you talk about the changes they went through?
Well, mainly it was the offensive line. They traded and received Larry Matanzel, an offensive tackle, left tackle specifically, a guy who they hope can solidify that offensive line. They also were able to pick up Kenny Stills, a wide receiver, add that to the receiving core. They were able to pick up Carlos Hyde. So they got some guys that they feel like can help them offensively. They're a team that really needs some weapons to go along with Deshaun Watson as well as DeAndre Hopkins. They feel like they have some guys to go along with them.
What are you most looking forward to out of the Saints season opener? I mean, we've seen a lot of preseason action, right? The Saints look good, especially when that starting unit was in for the Saints. But what are you most looking forward to out of the Saints season opener?
Well, first and foremost, I'm looking for Jared Cook. He's the offensive toy, the new guy added to the arsenal of the Saints. He and Drew Brees were able to display some chemistry when they were out there during training camp. They didn't get a chance to work in preseason games, unfortunately, but that really doesn't mean a whole lot because you get a lot more reps and probably more quality reps in joint practices as well as in practice against your teammates. So I'm not really concerned about that. We saw some chemistry between those two guys during practice. So I'm looking forward to seeing Jared Cook and what he can do on this offense opposite Michael Thomas, as well as when Alvin Kamara is on the field. I think he will have some openings offensively for the Saints. And also I think along the offensive line, you got to look at Eric McCoy, the rookie center. He's drafted in the second round. He's going to start tonight. We know how well he played during the preseason, but the preseason is different than the regular season. And, of course, he's going to be on an offensive line that's going to be tested by Texans defensive end J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt is one of the rare breed defensive linemen in the league. In 2014, he was first-team All-Pro as a defensive end, and he was second-team All-Pro as a defensive tackle. So this guy can do it inside and outside. He'll slide along the offensive line. He'll look for weaknesses on that offensive line. And I imagine at some point in time, he's going to be lined up pretty close to Eric McCoy.
In fact, everything you just said about J.J. Watt is true, and we heard from Drew Brees speaking on J.J. Watt earlier this week.
Size, strength, explosiveness, awareness. He's got just a great feel for the game, and I mean, in any one-on-one situation, I mean, he's going to feel like, I mean, there's a few guys in the league, that you sit there and say, all right, that's a tough matchup one-on-one for anybody. I don't care who you are, and so he's just an extremely talented player because of his size, his speed, his strength, his explosiveness, his awareness, his smarts, his energy, his motor. He's a really like a one-of-a-kind player. I mean, there's not many like him.
JD, the Saints had a strong team last year, so the training camp and offseason was very important for them because they did have to pick up some key pieces. I mean, as we said, they had a strong team, but they did have to pick up some more key pieces. They lost Mark Ingram in the offseason. They picked up Latavius Murray. They lost some pieces on the defensive line, but they picked up Super Bowl champion Malcolm Brown. What are you expecting to see from those guys tonight?
Well, mainly they needed Malcolm Brown because they needed someone to play defensive tackle. Tyler Davison left in free agency. Sheldon Rankins injured, and David Onyemata out because of the game suspension. So they had to have someone to plug in on that defensive line, not just plug, somebody who can plug and play. That would be Malcolm Brown. Picked up Mario Edwards also. Mario Edwards Jr. will not be playing in this game because of injury, but Malcolm Brown really the big pickup along that defensive line. We know they also picked up Jared Cook. We mentioned him already, but Latavius Murray at running back to hopefully replace Mark Ingram. He showed some things in preseason as far as receiving the football that we didn't necessarily know that he had because he didn't have to catch it a whole lot in his previous destinations. So hopefully he'll be able to fill in with Mark because Mark Ingram was fantastic in the screen game. He became a more improved receiver. He was also great in blitz pickup, and that's something that's key and critical on this offense.
On the Saints defensive side, we talked about it earlier, Deshaun Watson. He has been a key piece for the Houston Texans offense. Obviously, getting hit the most times in the NFL is challenging, but he continued to be a leader for that the Texans offense, and we're looking forward to seeing what he can do here tonight. But what does the Saints defense have to do in order to contain him tonight?
Well, you try as best you can to keep him in the pocket because Deshaun Watson is a problem. If he's outside the pocket, he's extending plays, and he's allowing his receivers more time to break free in the secondary. He's got DeAndre Hopkins, who is, if he's not the best receiver in the NFL, then I'll argue with you because he's right up there along with Michael Thomas, but he's a guy who is phenomenal. So if Deshaun Watson isn't able to if they aren't able to keep him in that pocket and make him one-dimensional, and by that, make him just a passer, see how accurate he can be, because if he gets outside the pocket, he ran 99 times for almost 500 yards last year, and that's excluding the sacks that he took. So he's able to get outside and do things with his feet that most quarterbacks in the league can't do. They got to keep him corralled, and that means your defensive ends have to have some integrity. Now, there are going to be some times where you stunt, and he's going to escape some because he's a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal quarterback. But you've got to keep him in the pocket as much as you possibly can. See if you can make him uncomfortable in the pocket.
Absolutely. That Saints pass rush is going to be important, but as well as the Saints secondary. We heard from P.J. Williams earlier this week talking about Deshaun Watson.
He has a big arm. I seen a couple passes like, dang, how did he get that in there and stuff like that. So he can throw really good. Like I seen one out route where he lays a deep out route where he lays it out there like DB had a good break, but he couldn't come back and make the play. So we got to be tight coverage all day, and also he can run. So you got to plaster on your coverage. He looks downfield a lot when he's scrambling. So you got to stay on your man longer and got to try to contain him. Keep him in the pocket.
All right, JD, we talked about the importance of the Saints defense keeping Deshaun Watson in the pocket. What is most important for the Saints offense tonight?
Well, I mean, I think they're going to move the football, and I think this offense has proven that it's going to move the football. Obviously, you've got to contain J.J. Watt, but I think they're going to be able to do some things, whether it be quick reads and throws from Drew Brees. They've shown the ability to do that, but they've got some different weapons. Again, I can't beat this enough. Jared Cook, you know, I'm going to be on the Old Town Road on him. Now I'm going to ride that horse until I can't ride it anymore.
Oh, no, you didn't do it. You didn't do an Old Town Road reference.
Yes, I did. Because I believe this guy's going to have a phenomenal year, and I think it's going to begin here tonight. Now, he's got some things physically that the Saints haven't had at tight end. He's got great size. He's 6'5" and about 240. He can run. He's got fantastic hands, and if you get him in situations one-on-one with either linebackers or safeties, then he's going to have a physical mismatch, and I think Drew Brees will find those physical mismatches.
Well, we got the horses in the back, JD. On special teams for the Saints, obviously we know Thomas Morstead and Will Lutz are automatic. A new key piece that the Saints have added this year, Deontay Harris. He's coming from Assumption College. Interesting fact, average attendance at an Assumption College Division II NCAA football game, 1,900 people. Tonight he will be playing in front of an average of 70,000 fans, but he's proven before that he can do it, and he's willing to step up to the challenge.
Yeah, he's shown that he can do it in preseason games. Now, we're going to have to see how he handles it in a regular season game, and I mean, the pressure is on now. But look, he was fantastic during preseason. He was fantastic during practice. So he looks like he has the goods, probably more so than a punt returner, than a kickoff returner, because in the NFL, they can kick out of the end zone, and they can really neutralize your abilities as a kick returner. But punt returns, the Saints haven't had a guy I don't think that they felt good about that might be able to take it to the house each and every time in a long time, maybe since Darren Sproles in 2013. So if you factor that in, he's got that wow ability to him. He can get into a scene, and he can take it all the way. He'll be a guy who possibly can flip field position for you, and that's a valuable commodity to have, because you don't want to have to drive it 80, 78 yards every time for touchdowns. Every now and then, you need a cheap score, and he looks like he has the ability to give the Saints great field position to get a cheap score.
Looking forward to seeing what he has in store for us tonight. Sean Payton earlier this week spoke about the crowd and the atmosphere that he's looking forward to out of the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
I think it's great for our fans, number one. You know, it's a night game. I mean, we're counting on the same electricity that we had the last time we were in that stadium. I mean, they can impact a game. They know that. So we're counting on a playoff atmosphere.
That'll do it for the New Orleans Saints pregame show presented by Harrah's New Orleans. I'm Caroline Gonzalez, joined by John DeShazier. If you're coming to the Superdome tonight, be sure to download the Saints app presented by Verizon, where you can use the Light Up the Dome featured app. It'll be played during player introductions, and we want you to be a part of the party. That'll do it for the New Orleans Saints pregame show presented by Harrah's New Orleans. Kickoff is at 6:10 p.m. tonight, and you can watch it on ESPN. Thanks for joining us on the Saints pregame show.